feeling the time is right, girl, come get this elevation. They say you ain't the one for me, don't listen, girl, they hate it. Trail ride, T-R-A-I-L, ride, ride it like a trail ride, it's the Conquer trail ride, put it on me. Now what you doing to me? Oh baby, please come put it on me. Cause you got what I want, babe. We got horses in the stable. I love the way you ride it. Horses in the stable. Trail ride it. This is the cowgirl trail ride. Horses in the stable. I love the way you ride it. Horses in the stable. This is the cowgirl trail ride.
Yeah, the R&B Talk on a Tuesday. Steve Gooseby, good morning, y'all.
Good morning. It's your girl, the most powerful Mel E.B. Goose. We're here on a Tuesday, not a Thursday, but I'm
right.
loving it. It's a little cloudy.
A lot of things going on. We're going to talk about R. Kelly. We're going to talk about Karen Reed. Hopefully the verdict comes out today. Also, Donald Trump is in the news. But real quick, this song right here, let me tell you something.
Tell me, Goose.
Something about the South. The music hits different.
Can I tell you, I am in search of a black cowboy. I don't know.
Oh, man.
Listen, I'm gonna go back to my TikTok space. Something about what's happening on TikTok lately. There have been all these reels in my algorithm. I guess the algorithm gods have been thinking about me, and all these fine specimens of Southern black cowboys on horses have been running up on my newsfeed. And I've been like, maybe I need to take a trip to Texas. Maybe I need to go to Texas and see what's really going on. Because
well, something about down south, man. Like I said, that music just hits different.
I like that trail ride.
And
song.
that joint right there, Cowboy song. I just discovered it. It's Cowboy. I'll tell you. Hold on.
You got to tell me, what is that called? Because I
had to throw it in rotation. But
oh my gosh. I was like, okay, it makes me want to go find some
horses in the trail round. Oh man, don't get me started. The name of that song is called Cowgirl Trail Ride.
Cowgirl Trail Ride.
And it's by S. Dot. S-D-O-T-T.
Let me tell you, that song right there is where it's at. That's hitting. That's hitting.
Right.
I like that.
Yep, R&B vibes for you right there, y'all.
Melly B's looking for a chocolate cowboy on a horse somewhere, just in case anybody.
Yeah, I heard her. You can call us up. You know the number. 617-238-7111. She's looking for a chocolate cowboy.
It got to be a chocolate cowboy. He has to have a horse.
And guess what?
Not a motorcycle.
And guess what? I don't mind a chocolate cowgirl. You know what I'm saying?
Goose, let me find out. All right. So let's talk about what's going on with R. Kelly.
Yeah, so apparently R. Kelly overdosed, according to reports. And, it's funny because this all came about after a week ago, his lawyers said that they were trying to get him pardoned, through Donald Trump.
Right.
And so all of a sudden he's in need of some medication. He gets the medication, and the next morning he wakes up, he's dizzy, he falls down, passes out. And also apparently he has some type of injury to his leg.
Yeah, so, I was reading up a little bit about this. I'm not going to sit here in front and be like, oh, yeah, because I follow R. Kelly, because I don't, right?
Right.
But from what I'm understanding, and this is what's being reported by US Today, they were saying that he has kind of an anxiety sleeping medication that he'll take to go to bed, right?
Right.
So there's really no way for an inmate to OD on medication unless they're holding onto the medication in the meantime.
And it was given to him by the prison.
Right. So it had to have been given to him. So if the medication is being given to R. Kelly consumes the medication. If you are expecting it to be a particular whatever, you're not going to, you're not going to know what the milligram dose is because you're not watching it getting dispersed into the cup that's being issued to you, right?
Correct.
Then you talk about a couple of other things. What does R. Kelly know? What does he know? Because I'm just saying we are in the age of I'm telling. Like there's no code anymore. The code is gone. The code has gone out the window.
What is crazy to me, right? First of all, I don't think, and I'm not saying the videos aren't real and he didn't do what he did.
Right.
But when you look at, if you really knew the music industry for what it's been over the years, he doesn't belong in jail. You know what I mean? I mean, look what's going on with Puffy right now, or Diddy. R. Kelly, you know, I think
I don't condone either.
Right.
Like, let's be very clear. I'm not going to condone either's behavior because abuse is abuse as far as I'm concerned. You know how I feel about that, Goose. I'm very staunch on that stand.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a bit of a difference between R. Kelly and Diddy, and people might be like, Mel, what are you talking about? Well, the difference is these young ladies kept coming back. There wasn't even a being held, and listen, I couldn't leave because when I tried to leave, I was being restrained.
That has always been my number one question.
And the parents allowed it.
That no one asks. Why did you go back? Answer that one question
again,
for
I go
me.
back,
and I know your answer because you told me about it before,
yeah.
so I understand your answer. I get that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't answer the question for me. Listen, I think that's an excuse.
You think Stockholm Syndrome is an excuse?
I think for some people, it's in his case, I believe it was an excuse.
Do you think it was about the end game, I believe, the money, the gifts?
I believe certain scenarios that applies. I don't think it applies in R. Kelly's case.
You don't think it applies?
I don't think so.
I can't co-sign it, but
I don't think so because
I won't co-sign it, but I'll say that I can appreciate that view just because, again, it's still different. In the sense of when you look at how people have responded in as far as like the testimony of Diddy stuff compared to the testimony that presented through R. Kelly, it seemed more to me like R. Kelly just had a kink. You get what I'm saying? Like there are men that have kinks for different things, different strokes for different folks. That's why there's 8.2 billion people on this planet. Okay.
Right. Yep.
But that is different than what we're talking about, what R. Kelly was doing. That Diddy was doing. It's a different vibe, but it still can go into the same house. That's all I'm going to say.
Right.
And they're saying that he crawled to the door of the cell and lost consciousness.
Yeah. And also threats were made towards him
by another cellmate, right?
By another cellmate that they were going to kill him.
I wonder what that's about.
You know, listen, again, the record,
it's a different culture.
The record industry is a whole new, and just think about it. You're talking about billions and millions of dollars, right?
Sure.
Publishing.
Yeah, publishing rights.
I mean, we can go all day and talk about different artists, even Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson. You can go down the list of artists who wanted to have their stuff audited, because they didn't believe they were getting all their royalties, the way they were supposed to be paid and things of that nature. So, listen, man, I've said it before. I mean, I just think the music industry at the end of the day, man, it's gangster.
Yeah, I would be lying to you if I said I didn't agree with that. I do think that we have lived in a very sheltered idea and vision, and we idolized the space that really was just cutthroat, if we're being totally transparent and talking about what that was and what that looked like. So I can appreciate it.
I mean, even in the Suge Knight days, man, the stuff that was going on he literally had the industry. I mean, if he showed up at an event and there was other industry people there, they were gone. They didn't hang around. And I'm talking about top executives. They were out.
But I mean, look, Ray, if we're being honest, I do believe that he was a scary individual. And this is the thing, right? When you look at other industry people that have been out there, let's think about this, right? If we're talking about this, who comes to mind for me? Right. What about what's his name? Why is he slipping my brain? I hate when my brain does this in the morning. Not Suge Knight, but Rick Ross.
Rick Ross, okay.
Right? Rick Ross was a corrections officer. And then he became a gangster rapper. I'm confused. I mean, look, right?
At the end of the day, it is entertainment.
Right, but Suge Knight was that one.
Yeah.
He was a real one. He really came from that life.
It's entertainment.
He really was that person.
In many cases, what they're talking is real.
Yeah.
But also in a lot of cases, it's not real.
What do you mean?
It's entertainment. I mean, like, you have some rappers who talk certain things that they did. In some cases, what they're like talking.
Drake came from the suburbs and Degrassi High.
Well, Drake doesn't talk gangster though.
But he emulates that lifestyle. He might have grown out of it now, but in the beginning of his career, he absolutely did. Are you kidding me?
I think it's debatable. I mean, I think in terms of gangster rap, gangsters, they rap about what they've seen, what some of them, in most cases, what they've done,
right,
and what they witnessed.
Right.
And then other cases, you have gangster rappers. He didn't do a damn thing. You know what I mean?
So that's real.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think that you are speaking about a phenomenon, right? Which is there is this idea that we have to emulate a lifestyle to be credible, right? How do you get street cred? Well, street cred is going to be created by events and activities in which you have participated in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that to me tells me that the industry is set for that to exist, and that's what needs to happen. But my problem with that is solely based in the fact that when life starts emulating art, or art starts emulating life, right? Now you got problems, because now you have someone who's really not from that world and is soft as heck, ending up in spaces. And you know who I think of is Tekashi 69. Tekashi 69 is a prime example of that, right? Tekashi was one of them dudes that he was not from that world. And then he started rolling with cats that basically was like, oh, you ain't from this world, but we're going to run you for your money. And then he was too deep in. So then he had no choice, right? And then when the rubber met the road, guess what? He sang like a canary, and he wasn't for that life. You know what I mean? That life is not for everybody. And I think that once people recognize and realize game is game, and they can recognize real for real, that's where things start getting a little
Right.
I'm just saying. I don't know.
All right, let's switch it up.
What are we switching it to?
And I hope R. Kelly can get. I hope he can.
I hope
he's okay. His music. We really.
You miss his. Do you? Okay. Before we switch gears, do you think that R. Kelly will be able to make a comeback from this stint with everything that's gone down? Because he's basically, in a lot of ways, has been canceled.
Yes.
You think so? You think he can make a comeback?
Oh, yes. I think he can make a comeback.
Interesting.
He's that great of a writer. He's that great of an artist. And the way society is messed up, people follow anyways. They follow and don't even know they're following. And people, those same folks that's, oh, I'll never listen to R. Kelly again.
Right.
Oh, they're lying. They're already listening to him. So that's how I feel. I think most definitely.
Do you think his music will change?
Recently, he just did the Chris Brown thing. And that went bananas.
Do you think that, I don't know, do you think that it will change? Do you think his style,
music?
Yeah, do you think his style will change? Do you think the stunt changed him?
No, I don't. I think if anything, he's a writer. He's a great writer. All right. And he's a producer.
Right.
And I think for someone like that, it just comes down to making sure you keep up with the times, but also, just staying honest to who you are. And he's an R&B king. He's that dude. So as long as he stick to his own formula, he doesn't have to follow anybody. They follow him.
I will, right? Removing his lifestyle choices and how he chose to live his life, right? He did have bangers.
Oh, no doubt.
He was creating banger after banger. I can't even sit here and lie.
And he also wrote a lot of hits for other artists. That people don't even know about.
Yeah.
For example, "Fortunate" by Maxwell.
Okay.
That's an R. Kelly song. Okay. And it's funny because when Maxwell came out with that song, I thought to me, to this day, in terms of writing, that's one of his best songs. But when you look at the writing on that song, it's R. Kelly all the way. So when I found out it was R. Kelly, I said, no wonder. Just the way it was written. If you look at how that song was written and look at other Maxwell songs, it's night and day.
Fair enough.
In my opinion.
In your opinion. No, right. I respect that. Right. I mean, I think you know enough about the industry and exposure to the space that I think, you have a pretty good, decent pulse on things. So I receive that.
Thank you.
I receive that.
All right, let's switch it up real quick. Coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to talk about Karen Reed. And we're going to talk to Laugh and Grind, who is a content creator.
Wait a minute. Is that white boy to be?
Listen.
I didn't mean it like that. I swear, I didn't mean it. It slipped out like that.
Oh, my God.
I didn't mean it like that. Don't cancel me. No, wait. Wait.
What? So, say that again. Back up. Back it on up.
Is that Caucasian gentleman that that is always outside of the courthouse in Dedham.
To be honest, I'm not sure. I don't think he's always outside in Dedham. He might be.
But he makes content because you always see him in front of the Karen Reed supporters.
And he has great content.
Yeah,
I follow him, so we're gonna be talking to him shortly.
He definitely knows his business.
He knows his stuff.
He knows his business for sure.
And hopefully, while we're here this morning, maybe they'll come out with a verdict, and we can get into that. All right, so we're gonna talk about that.
But isn't it crazy how Bev literally decided to use the exact same slips from the first trial, where it just has guilty listed without non-guilty? But if you know, now granted, every single court and district and county does run a different slip when you have to put it into a jury, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm fully aware of this, but I just find it really almost like a Jedi mind trick, that if I'm sitting there as a juror and I'm staring at paperwork and that paperwork just has guilty on it.
It's very confusing.
Well, not even confusing, but I think it's also planting kind of one of those things where you're thinking
subliminal, but I can't even say the word.
Subliminal.
No, I was going to do the other word, subliminally. I can't say it.
Subliminally?
Yeah, there you go. See, I can't say the word. You got it.
Well, it's a good thing you said it, because I was like, what are you talking about, y'all?
No, it is. It's one of those messages
that man over there.
It's one of those messages that it messes with your mind.
Absolutely.
If you're a juror and you're in there trying to come up with, and you're talking about the case,
absolutely,
and you're trying to fill out the form,
absolutely,
guilty or not guilty, the sheet throws you off.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Now, let me add to that. Personally, I think it was like that by design.
But it was like that in the first trial as well.
Not just for this case. I think having it that way, it locks more people up. It contributes to locking more people up.
That's an interesting take. I wonder, now I'm curious, because curiosity.
And it does need to be changed.
But here's the real question, right? The real question here is this standard practice? Is, in fact, what we're seeing play out in front of us standard practice in that courtroom or that courthouse? Because if so, then somebody really does need to do their due diligence and figure out if that's what's going on, because it needs to be rectified.
I do believe it is standard practice.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Because now here you are. I think subliminally you're going to be set up in a position where if I'm in a room for hours at a time, deliberating with fellow jurors about whether or not someone is guilty or not guilty, and I'm looking at a sheet in front of me that I'm doodling on probably as somebody's talking, and it's just saying guilty, guilty, guilty. And guess what?
Right.
Guess where my little, where my little peanut brain's going? Guilty.
Right.
And this is so. I think this is part. What's interesting too, right? So there's all this research that's been done on marketing. And how do you create a marketing campaign to cause people to purchase your products, right? How do you place it? So, right, that's why marketing and product placement becomes so important for people, right? Because it reminds them, if I want to have the best such and such, this is what I'm going to do. Or if I want something that's a tough truck, I want Ford, right? There's all this subliminal messaging that gets placed out there. So if we're looking at content that literally has that going on, that's wild business. That is absolute wild business. And there's even conversation. I heard that if this is again becomes a mistrial, there's conversation about whether or not the Commonwealth is actually going to retry her again, because the Commonwealth is one of the states that allows for you to retry someone over and over again, and it's not considered double jeopardy because a verdict was not found either direction.
Can the Commonwealth afford to do that?
The Commonwealth absolutely cannot afford to do it.
And I'm wondering,
and it would be reckless business.
What has it cost the state?
That's great. I would
look
love
that up. If you can.
I'm gonna see if I can find something.
I'm curious
on
that. What
I would like to know that too as well. Because it at this point, it makes no sense, right? It makes no sense to me why, even after the first trial, there was just too much unknowns and there were just too many spaces. Because if it's supposed to be that you're left with the instructions that without a reasonable doubt, I know this individual has created or committed this crime, whatever that looks like, right? Fine. Yeah. Great. The first group you brought in said, no, we can't do that. And just with the evidence that was brought out, it's very clear that it couldn't be found. So now the Commonwealth goes back in again, and it is even more of a monkey show.
Yeah.
Oh, it is a complete circus.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because we as Joe Jones and Miss Smith taxpayer are the ones footing this bill. And it's like, I really question, is this the best you have for this county? Is this the best you have for this particular county? Because this right here is wild business.
Yeah. So for me, when I think about this case and when I look at it from the outside, it is so obvious what's going on. And, if there was a poll to be taken, I'm very interested in seeing what the numbers in that poll would be. But I would bet that somewhere in the 90s, in terms of 90%, 90+% of the people would say that she's not guilty after watching and hearing all the evidence in this trial. And those people outside the Dedham courthouse, I mean, they are straight supporters. I'm like, do these folks have jobs?
It's wild.
Did
I tell you that I was at the nail salon the other day, and I'm minding my business, living my best life, doing my prep work for the week. And this young lady walked into the shop and had a free Karen Reed sweatshirt on. That's when you know that you're in serious business when people are walking around with sweatshirts on talking about free. I've never seen anybody do that. I've seen people do shout outs for Pookie and them on the internet, but I've never seen anybody walking around with free somebody on their sweatshirt.
Yeah.
So, this is real business.
So yeah, I'm gonna play a clip real quick.
Can you put it in the studio too?
Most definitely. This is one of my favorite clips with Dr. Laposada.
Okay.
Hopefully I didn't butcher that name, but here it is.
Did you receive criticism that for over 17 hours officials were asking you to come to the scene and you refused?
It was untrue. It was printed in the newspaper. We looked up all the phone records and provided it to the newspapers and showed that nobody called me to go. I would have gone if I needed to. I had my investigator there. It was just bullshit. No, it was erroneous stuff.
Now I
love her.
She tried her best not to swear there, but
I love her.
She said it was BS.
Love her. She's like erroneous.
Now the thing I like about her, she just reaps innocence. Like you could tell she's telling the truth. She's not making it up. And
she knows her facts.
And Brenna tried to throw dots at her testimony, but she
wait. Can we stop for a second? Did you say dots?
Darts, yes.
Did we just go real Boston on everybody? Dots.
Stop it.
I got your information for you. So the first trial, the first one, came in at $750,000 in Massachusetts, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts taxpayers' money. That means that this new second trial coming
is over. It's got to be.
It's over $1 million. It has to be over $1 million
because they spent $400,000 alone on some
expert witness.
Yeah, $400,000 alone on that.
That's why, like, wow. And I can't even get potholes fixed on my street. I can't. Wait. Not only can we not get potholes fixed in the street, I got people constantly blocking my driveway because the way the city poured the concrete, that it didn't align with my driveway correctly. So the people's noses of their cars are constantly blocking me. I can't get in or out. Meanwhile, we could spend almost $3 million on trying to convict somebody who in the first trial, it was quite evident that was not the case. Now, I will be completely transparent in this. And I would say to you that I would have taken half the money to paint my arm blue and show how that car could not have actually been hurt by my arm or my arm hurt by that car. I would have taken it for $250,000.
All right.
I'm just saying.
Let's hear from the ARCA medical examiner real quick.
Okay.
I don't think his arm was even impacted by the car, so no. I don't know the position of the arm at impact because it wasn't hit by the car.
You don't know the angle of his body at impact, do you?
The alleged angle?
2022, do you?
We have no information that he was even hit by the Lexus. So there wouldn't be any information on the angle if his body wasn't hit. The post-impact movement, the head injury, without proving that, everything else is ancillary to what you're attempting to conclude. I suppose that's a possibility, or someone could put it there. I mean, there's a number of different possibilities as to when or how a hat may appear in a yard.
Who do you think put it there?
Well, I have no idea. I haven't seen any evidence of how it got there, and frankly, it's immaterial to a biomechanical analysis.
Do you have a theory you want to share with us about planting evidence? Is that what we're getting at, sir?
I would have said, yeah.
you know,
since you brought it up.
But here's the thing that's so wild when you listen to these clips, right? And you listen to how people, they're already telling you.
And by the way, he was hired initially by the FBI.
I heard that. And then he dropped that verbiage of DNA into the courtroom on that day. And that just opened this whole new conversation piece that started transpiring. It's just wild. I get frustrated and flustered when I think about it, because it's just wild to me how we've even landed here. But again, I'm gonna go back to a narrative that people are gonna get mad. But if it were somebody else sitting in that chair, we wouldn't even been at the second trial, first of all. And second of all, they would have shut it down immediately. Because how do you have Boston police officer's house, and you are a cop, and you tell me you see all of those lights? You see all of the, because if you look at the content that was captured off the dash cam of when Karen Reed was coming back and forth talking about, did I hit him? Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? That whole thing, you see nothing. It looked like Star Wars.
Right.
So you're telling me you're a Boston police officer and you at no point at the corner, and mind you, they say that the bedroom of which he had was at the corner of the house over the garage. So there's no way you don't come outside.
Yeah, well, there are thousands of questions that people still
and
want
what happened
answered.
to Snoopy? I'm gonna still talk about the dog. Nobody ever talk. Where's the dog? No, all they say is that he was rehomed. He wasn't rehomed. They got rid of Snoopy.
You know, you think they gave him a big hug before he left, or before
that poor German Shepherd? You know, it breaks my heart because that dog did his job.
Yeah,
the dog did his job.
Hey, our guest is here. Want to welcome him to the stage. Give it up for Laugh and Grind. What's happening, man?
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Steve. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for joining us, sir.
So I actually follow Laugh and Grind, and he had a live going on yesterday, and I just kind of chimed in. I like the stuff that he's been talking about. He's very knowledgeable. So I wanted to bring you on the show today, man, to just get some insight. Hopefully we'll get a verdict today. But, you know, guilty, not guilty, mistrial. In your opinion, what happens next for Karen Reed if she is found guilty? And I kind of want to just try and cover all of it, in your opinion.
Sure. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys, and I remember you popping in on that live. So thank you. So I just want to make sure I called that out. I would say, in my opinion, if she is found guilty, which I don't think it's going to happen, if she is found guilty, they will probably want to throw the book at her and take her away in cuffs. I think Alan Jackson and that defense team is going to say, look, she's gone through enough. She's not a flight risk. She barely has enough money to pay for her own living expenses. She's not going to go anywhere. Can she have about a week to report? Mm-hmm. I think they're going to give her a little bit of leniency there. But it's all up in the air, right? We have no idea what's going to happen. But I think if she is found guilty, that's probably going to be the next steps right away.
Right. And I agree with you. I don't think she will be found guilty. I think it'll be either not guilty or a mistrial. Now, the evidence is so overwhelming, in my opinion, in terms of her not being guilty. But, you know, from the forms that the jurors have to fill out, from all the sustains and, you know, I'll allow it for on Bev or whatever they call it. What are your thoughts on it being a mistrial? How do you feel in regards to that?
I think the longer that this jury is quote unquote out, I think absolutely it's gonna point more towards a mistrial. I do think if we had to compare both trials, trial 1 versus trial 2, I think this trial has a higher probability of a not guilty conviction. Just because the defense led more with science, it led more with medical versus having 74 different witnesses and all this testimony to consider. So I do think the longer it stays out, it does point more towards mistrial. And but if we do get a not guilty, I think it's the higher probability on this case versus the first trial.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
Yeah. You got a question?
No? Oh, yeah. Hi. So my name is Melly B. How are you? I've seen your content. I've kind of creepoid watched you on TikTok a little bit. Yeah.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. I appreciate you because you're also bringing a perspective that you're not going to see from major news outlets, right? And I think that becomes important. And I think that also is one of the most powerful tools about social media that we, as the average person who doesn't have to report back to somebody, gets to do, right?
Right.
I'm curious to hear from you. What is your take on the pulse of the energy outside the courthouse? How, because I mean, like the way it shows, it's like there's a lot of Karen supporters. Are you seeing less of people from the other side of the camp out there now, or does it seem like there's more? What is that looking like?
So far, based on my experience, it's more, I mean, obviously it's a huge Free Karen Read support group, right? Everyone's out there in pink. I will say there are a little bit less I've noticed this time around as a support group, not saying that her support group has dwindled. It's just less people physically there. I think the buffer zone really pushed people away, telling them they had to be a certain amount of feet away. I think it's 200 feet away from the courthouse. I think that deterred some people. It almost silences them indirectly. So I have noticed that the crowd is smaller, but I will say that the volume is still there. I think the passion is still there. The support is still there. But to answer you, I will say the crowd has dwindled just a little bit. I don't really hear a lot of people against Karen there. I think that would be probably not the smartest decision for some people to be in a support group and then go against her. But I will say it's been relatively respectful. I think from what we understand, there's been no real problems. People seem to be getting along. But I think the vibe is essentially like all of us. We're waiting. It's the wait game. The unknown is very uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I know you got a lot to do, but I have one more question or thought.
Please.
I just want to throw your way. So the O'Keefe family, and I mentioned this to Mel last week. So the O'Keefe family, they sit on the side of the prosecution.
Yep.
But they've seen all the evidence now. Yep. I mean, I'm so curious on John O'Keefe's mother, like what her thoughts are now. You still believe Karen did this? I mean, what are your thoughts when it comes to that, the O'Keefe family?
I will say, as being prior law enforcement, it's a very, very strong community, very strong. A lot of people, quote unquote, looked the other way, as Alan Jackson said in trial 1 when he opened his closing arguments. So I think for the O'Keefe family, they are surrounded by people saying she's guilty, this is what happened. And I think that influence at this stage of the game has just consumed them. Peggy, just specifically to her, she's lost 2 children, right? She just wants justice for her son. I think at the end of the day, if they find Karen not guilty, her mindset's going to be, okay, then who is guilty? I think that's where it's going to go. She is a mother that lost a child. So it's tough, but her grieving and her going through what she's going through, being surrounded by police and people all supporting one theory, I think she just, by association, is influenced by that theory. I don't truly believe deep down she really believes Karen is completely and utterly guilty. I truly don't. I think she's focused on that influence.
Yeah, I've always had the feeling she didn't like Karen anyways, and now for this to happen, so I think that might play a role as well. But I don't know. After I'm trying to put myself in her position. After seeing all the evidence, I'm saying to myself, like, well, what in the hell really happened?
Yeah, she did walk away a couple of times, and that's something she's never done in the first trial. There was some points in this trial when there was specific testimony from specific witnesses that got up there and were just completely, I don't really like to use the word, but I would say destroyed by the defense, like Burgess, who couldn't complete a bachelor's degree. She just shook her head and she ended up leaving through that testimony. So that to me spoke volumes. To see her physically walk out of testimony, that spoke volumes to me.
Can I ask one last question? I don't want to hold you hostage here with us, but I do tend to do that. I'm that one. So I heard you say that you are with a background in law enforcement. I'm curious to know, what is your take on the level of corruption that is coming to the forefront surrounding Canton, especially with Karen Read's situation, and also the young lady who was part of the cadet program out of Canton. her story is horrific as well, and I'm hoping we'll get some attention that it rightfully deserves and needs. What are your thoughts on this?
I think this corruption has been going on a lot longer than we all knew. I think this trial brought that all to light. I'm happy that it's coming out because it's opening doors to other conversations, because it's not just Canton. To be completely fair, there's been other PDs, and even our state police has, some other issues that we've all heard about over the last 8 to 10 months.
Sure.
So my take is I'm glad it's coming out, but this goes deep, and this goes deeper than that current police force. This goes way above that. Again, I'm happy that it's coming out, but there's a lot of work to do. Karen should not be in that position that she's in. She should not be in that chair, but somebody should be, because at the end of the day, John deserves justice. He was a green cop. He did the right thing. He flew straight, and we know what happened at that stage, right? He deserves justice. So at this point, if it's not Karen in that seat, somebody needs to be held accountable, and someone needs to be in that seat.
And the way they've been sweeping this under the rug, it definitely was not the first time.
No.
It just makes you think how many people are in jail that shouldn't be in jail.
I think you hit it on the head, Stephen. I think at that point this has been going on for quite some time, but this is the first time accountability is really being asked of people. I don't think they've ever really had any accountability. I think this has been going on for so long, and now that it's being pushed and it's being publicized, now people are like, oh, wait a minute, this is uncharted waters for us. This is new. Now what do we do? I mean, let's be honest. They didn't give us any video footage for over 2 years. We just found x-rays in this trial. Where were the x-rays in the first trial? So there's a lot of things that we're still finding out. Where's the Dighton Sallyport video? Well, we know the vehicle was there for a little while. Where was that video? Where's the video of Kenneth Berkowitz and Higgins in the Sallyport that Devers alluded to?
Yeah,
we don't know. So there's stuff that we still don't have
to get there. Right.
Sure.
And does the FBI come in next?
I believe the FBI is already involved. We've already seen them in the courthouse. We've already seen, in the courtroom. Reporters have reported them being there. So they're not there just for their health. They're not there because they're just Karen Reed supporters, or they're crime junkies, right? They're there for a reason. So I think once this is all set, I think the FBI will start doing their thing. But just a heads up with that, we won't hear much about it. They typically federal, they fly under the radar. They could be interviewing people as we speak, and we won't know about it. So it won't be publicized. All of a sudden, they'll say, we made an arrest, and that's all you'll hear.
Yeah.
Hey, man, thanks for your time.
Yes,
Laugh and Grind. And how can people follow you? Give them all your social media.
Yep. So we're on TikTok at Laugh and Grind. We're also on Instagram at Laugh and Grind as well. So those are our two main platforms right now.
All right. Thanks for your time, man. I'll be in touch,
You
buddy.
got it. You got it. Thank you both. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Yes, that was great. Yeah, man. So hopefully we'll get a verdict today, but I mean, this whole case,
Wait, can we just stop for a second and just goggle at the fact that you just talked?
I just what?
You just talked to him. Like, this guy is like one of the premier. Like, he could do a documentary himself on how ingrained he's been in following this and reporting, and it's also been done, clean. And when I say that, I mean in the sense that he's not skewed. He's staying very impartial in all of this, which is super important when you are telling us, when you are sharing a view for people, because a lot of news outlets will definitely skew it however their dollar bill is pointed. Right. So I really appreciate that. That's really dope.
Oh, okay.
That was pretty dope.
I'm like, huh? Okay.
No. That was dope. That was dope. I'm sitting here like, oh snap.
Yeah. So where was I? You kind of just threw off my thought there.
Sorry, my bad. I was giving you flowers, man.
Well, no, I appreciate the flowers.
I never get flowers. I throw thorns. I throw rocks.
Flowers, Mel. But no, I mean, this whole case, man. I mean, the state of Massachusetts, they got to be pissed. They really got to be pissed that they're in this situation. They're losing the public's confidence in. And I wouldn't say all the police guys, because again, there are a lot of great officers out there.
Yes.
But the state has a problem right now.
I mean, listen,
they have a major problem.
I think you're spot on. I do believe it would be unkind and unfair to brush such a broad stroke to say that there's corruption everywhere and all the cops.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. There are people that who I love and I respect and I adore, who are in law enforcement and, are people, like I say all the time, that are running to all of the things that we're running away from, right? And it takes a certain type of caliber of character for someone to come into a space and to be willing to put their life on the line every single day, right? That is a different type of person. But it also is very telling, and I think is interesting when we are looking at the fact that people have taken advantage of the power that is bestowed upon them in these roles as well. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is. It is
absolutely heartbreaking.
And again, hopefully we'll get a verdict today. But that whole trial, man, is just, again, it's one big movie, one big TV show. And it's unbelievable because when you look at it and you hear some of the evidence, it's like, do they really think we're stupid? Like, I mean, are we that far into the matrix where it's to the point where people can use the media and put out anything they want and we automatically just...
But that has been the status quo. If we're being completely transparent and honest, right? I want to say there's like a level of awakening that is happening currently in our culture, in our society, where if we went back 20 years from today, right? This is kind of the beginning of the internet and social media presence and the creating of the influencer in these roles, right? We had something happening where we took things as gospel. My grandmother lived and breathed by CNN, right?
Let's pay a bill real quick.
Pay a bill.
The unexpected, unorthodox radio from Boston and beyond. Heat.a1fm.com and iHeart Station.
My grandmother lived and breathed by CNN. Right. And so CNN was one of those things that if CNN reported it, it was gospel. You couldn't tell her any different. Right. And so you think about these things as how did we as a society consume information and consume knowledge and look at things and think it's gospel. Whereas now there seems to be a veil that has been removed off of us. Right. And in this veil comes truth. And so I always go back to and I think about the redacted reports that came out on Martin Luther King. I was told in school Martin Luther King was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee on that balcony at that motel, right? This is what I was told as a kid. I believed this. I ate it. I regurgitated it. It was a fact. And then we get this unredacted report that gets released from Hoover and the boys. And come to find out, Martin Luther King, in fact, was not killed on that balcony, but had been smothered with a pillow by a nurse in the hospital.
Well, again, here's the thing about the media. And, I've always said you cannot believe everything you see.
But did you always feel that way?
And hear. No, I didn't always feel that way, but I learned that, to be honest with you, I learned that when I started doing radio.
Okay. Talk a little bit more about that.
I learned that because I was a part of it. Having the power of this microphone is a big deal.
I agree.
When you gain the trust of people and you say certain things, certain people will follow you. You'll have a group of followers where people will believe any and everything you say. Now, I'm not sitting up here saying I'm a liar about the stuff I talk about.
Right.
Because the truth is,
if
I'm going to tell you something, I'm going to tell you something that's going to be my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm always tell you to do your own fact checking. Everything I say, and I'm not perfect. I'm not always right.
Right.
But I'm close to it.
Oh, Lord. I knew that was a setup. I knew it was a setup. I knew there was no way that we were going to have this conversation. You were going to not say some slick stuff.
I'm not going to say anything, whereas I'm just not going to throw stuff out there.
Well, no, I think
I'm never going to do that.
There's a certain level of responsibility we have having this platform and being able to do what we do, right? I believe it's an honor, and I'm going to stand on that, and that's a hill I'm going to die on 10 toes down. Why has it become that? Well, because we also are bringing conversation to the table or into a space that hopefully will cause other people to want to talk about certain things or discuss something that we've brought up to the table.
Look at how many times we've been lied to in politics. Why do politicians lie to us?
Because they want the vote.
They want the vote, and they can get us to move in certain ways that benefits whatever the agenda is.
Very
and that's in and listen, even when you watch the news, and we'll use Karen Reed for an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
On certain stations, when you watch the Karen Reed trial or when they're reporting on Karen Reed, 9 times out of 10, they're reporting one way. And usually it's the way of the prosecution. And, and I realize this because sometimes when I do watch television, which isn't often, but
right.
A lot of times when I go visit mom, she got the TV on, so I'm watching the news.
Shout out to Mama Gooseby.
What up, moms? But you watch the news, and they're talking about Karen Reed, and they're saying certain things, but highlights of what happened that day, they won't talk about that on TV. Like, I think the evidence from the defense has been so overwhelming, I hardly hear the media talk about it.
No, that's real.
To me, that's a problem because you're not giving the audience the whole truth.
Yeah, no.
And that's what it's about. You want to give the whole truth so that they can make a decision on where their mindset is in terms of what's going on with that trial or just any old thing. That's just how the media works. The media is all about sensationalizing whatever the story is. They want to make, because they need your attention so they can get those numbers.
No, for sure. For sure. I think you're spot on with that. And I think what ends up happening is that we also are consumers, right? So we're consumers of products, we're consumers of knowledge, we're consumers of information and entertainment. And let's be also very clear. We as a society love the messery of things. I would use a different terminology, but we got to be rated G. I think that people are very much so wanting to be entertained, whether it's escape from what is chaos in their own lives or the mundane drains of drums of their everyday existence, which is very ordinary for them, right? There's something to be said about excitement. This is why people go on roller coasters. This is why people do all these death-defying things, because they want to, quote unquote, feel alive, right? So when you're watching somebody else's life implode, there's entertainment in that because it allows for you to feel the excitement or choose to create an opinion of something without actually having the consequence of having your world implode on you.
Right.
This is when Goose is over here messing with his trinkets.
Oh no, because you said we weren't live on Facebook, and I just found us. So I don't know.
You just find us?
Yeah, I don't know why we weren't live.
That was weird.
It says we're live,
but I couldn't find us. I was like, hello, yeah. All the oxen free.
So yeah, so that's again, I'm all about the whole truth. Even when a person comes up to me and goes, yo, they doing this over there, I got 1,000 questions. I'm not just running off of what a person tells me. I got 1,000 questions for real, because I want to know what I want every box checked off before I come up with my own opinion.
No, that's real.
Yeah, and to me, that's what people should do, but we don't, for the most part, right? We don't.
Well, because part of it too, Goose, if we're being totally transparent about all this and we're being honest, I think
you can't handle the truth.
That's exactly what it is. I think when people start recognizing and realizing when the Great Oz has the curtain pulled from behind, that it's not all what you thought it was, and so it becomes dismissed. Like there's a mysticism of it that becomes completely just gone. It vanishes.
Yeah.
I don't know, Goose.
Yeah. So that's what's up with Karen Reed. Hopefully, I'm just looking at live court TV here.
Sure. They're saying 11 hours they've been
11 hours, and so
have you ever thought about just driving up there to Dedham to take a look at what this really looks like?
Oh, the few times I've been to BJ's, I said, let me go by here real quick. Just see what's going on.
So you've gone by?
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Did it really look as chaotic as it does on television?
Oh,
or is it
most definitely has.
Really?
Most definitely. No, those protesters out there, and I'm just kidding. Like, look at all those people now.
I'm looking
they
at
have
the
jobs
now.
They have jobs, and what, they took the week off from work to go support Karen Reed?
I just love the fact that there's like a whole crew of them just sitting in their folding up lawn chairs like they're at a soccer game. And
they're tailgating. They're tailgating.
And then you have
the Karen Reed trial.
But here's even crazier. Now you have other people behind the court TV reporter videotaping the court TV reporter live broadcasting. Do you see her?
No, I see. I'm watching her.
Like,
I'm watching her.
Like, this is it. I don't know. Like, I do think that there's part of it when it gets to this point. And, you know, my first ever true memory of something of that nature, I go back to OJ. But the crowd was different.
This has OJ beat by 10,000 miles.
I agree. But I'm talking about the outside appearance.
Yeah.
You know, there was a very different community supporting OJ at that time than the community you're seeing currently right now. Like, look at grandma. Look at like she's sitting there nodding her head, agreeing whatever it is that this gentleman is saying.
Now there's actually video of a medical examiner from the hospital where they took John.
Yes.
Who happened to drive by. This was during the first trial.
Okay.
Or maybe it was the second. I can't remember. But one of the medical examiners drove by and was yelling out to the crowd, "I was there the night he came in." Ooh. And she told them some information about her thoughts.
Really?
Yeah. And she clearly is a supporter of Karen Reed.
You know, here's the thing. When something is corrupted and when something is amiss, when there is smoke, there's always going to be what, Goose? Fire, right? And
like the Ohio players.
Like, I go back to and I think about how many other people have endured this exact treatment without the sensationalization happening that we're experiencing.
And that is the number one question, because
I listen, if I had ever been in Judge Bev's courtroom, have I ever had them people involved in my investigation, had old boy from the staties that does the head investigations been involved, man, the first thing I'd be doing right now is getting some kind of legal team together to send in and ask for a retrial and basically go back in and be like, you got to be kidding me.
The power of people in power.
Yeah. There needs to be a shakeup. There needs to be some kind of, I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it means it's going to be, but something needs to happen.
And the whole world is watching. Now, a lot of those people in front of the courthouse, they're not even from Massachusetts. Some flew in.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know
a lot
that.
of them are not from Massachusetts. People are watching this trial, throughout the world, to be honest.
I mean, I know that it has definitely gained traction, but I did not know that we had a lot of people that weren't.
Yeah, a lot of those folks said, you know what, let's take a vacation, let's go to Massachusetts, and then let's go to the Karen Reed trial.
Well, I mean, it's great for the economy. I bet all the mom and pop coffee shops in Dedham are real happy that.
Can you imagine though, right? Let's say you're from Philly and you're following the Karen Reed trial from Philly.
Yeah.
And you want to go on vacation. You know what? Let's take a trip to Massachusetts.
So you just say road trip?
Let's get a road trip. Let's go book the Hilton or the Marriott somewhere in Dedham and go down to the courthouse, which is down the street,
right?
And take some pictures in front of the court in support of Karen Reed. That's what people are doing.
You can't even get mad at it, though.
You can't make it up either.
No, you can't.
You can't make it up, man.
Can't.
But it's wild down there right now. I just want to switch it up real quick because your guy, ladies and gentlemen, your president of the United States, Donald Trump. All right. He dropped a new phone yesterday.
A new phone.
It's called the T1 Mobile.
Okay.
It launched yesterday.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And it's part of his Make America Great Again. The cost for this phone is $499 with a monthly plan of $47. It includes call, text, and unlimited internet, no contract, no credit check. It comes with roadside assistance and telehealth.
Say what?
$499. All right. Now you have to put down $100 deposit.
Do you get Trump crypto with it or something?
I don't know, but
does it come preloaded with Trump crypto?
But my question is, for all the folks who don't like Trump, are you gonna get this phone?
That's right there with the sneakers.
Are you gonna buy this phone here? It's only $499. The iPhone, you're paying $1,000 at least. You're paying $1,000.
Why can't
for the iPhone?
You know,
and I can't remember the last time I saw $47 a month for any phone I've ever had.
But doesn't Cricket or Boost Mobile do that or something?
I don't know.
It's
possible.
So, I just wish they'd bring back the Nextel and everyone could just twerp, and they're like, "What you doing, Goose?" Like that was good living time. Yeah. No, here's something I think that we need to discuss. I've yet to ever see, Trump has been notoriously known that everything that he touches, he puts his name onto it, whether it's an airline, whether it's a building, whether it's a casino, it doesn't matter. Trump's going to put his name on it, right? I just feel like your job right now is to focus on the country and diplomacy and making sure that law and order and these sorts of things, right? Again, I go back to, I respect the office, right? It as an American citizen, my respect is with the office. So if the White House was to call me tomorrow and say, "Come, we want you to participate in some programming here at the White House," I'm not declining. I'm absolutely going. Why? Because I respect the office. Now, we're not talking about who is currently residing in the office.
It's like Snoop performing for, cryptocurrency. I understood what he was doing. A lot of folks hated him for it, but
that was brilliant.
He did it because he got a bag of crypto.
But that was brilliant. Like, that to me makes complete sense. Again,
and if you know what crypto is
and what it's going to do and what it's
you understand why he did
absolutely
it. And I've said this before, Snoop is gonna be one of the next billionaires. He is.
I am not mad at Snoop. You can go back into the archives of my videos, you'll see me say exactly what I'm saying right now. It has not changed. I do believe that business is business, right? You can have.
I would have done it too.
I would have, of course. I would have done it as well.
Listen, I offer folks to pay me in crypto for DJing.
Which, again, I'm not mad at you for. I too would probably do the same.
If you want a discount, if you want
me
to DJ,
an XRP,
and you want a discount on me DJing, just pay me in crypto.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
I'll take that before cash.
Absolutely, it has more value. I always go back and I tell people. Remember the guy that paid 200 Bitcoins for 2 pizzas?
Oh, man, 200
Bitcoins for 2 pepperoni pizzas. That is wild business. Right. Those are the most expensive pizzas known to man.
All right, I just got to check and see what the price of Bitcoin is today.
Here he goes, y'all. He's going down the rabbit hole.
Do the math, man.
He's going down the rabbit hole.
$104,000. Let's just round it off. $105,000. All right, is what Bitcoin costs today.
Yeah.
$105,000 for 1 Bitcoin times what?
200. Yeah.
Man, that's 21 mil.
Isn't that wild?
21.
That man paid $21 million for 2 pizzas.
$21 million.
But that's why I said to you, there have been times where you got to go in and life be life.
No, he didn't pay $21 million.
No, that's how much it's worth. Those
that's what it's worth today. So yeah, it did cost in the long run. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. My man's that was like, all right, I'll do it. Here's 200, and he transferred it over to old boy for 2 pizzas.
Yeah.
And he thought he was getting the come up because at that time, I believe it was worth only like 50 cents.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So in reality, he thought he was getting over, but what he didn't realize was that he literally just bought a house.
Now you know what? Back in the day when that Bitcoin was whatever it was, $3, $2, whatever it was. I swear, if someone would have introduced it to me, I would have most definitely bought. Because I'm that guy. I'm always going left.
I agree, but I think you would have spooked.
No, not me.
But you did. You've done it. I mean, you've shared that before, that you spooked on certain stuff when you did not know what was going on and you didn't understand how this all worked, and you like all these things were in play.
Not with crypto.
No, you said you cashed out some of your stuff and you wish you hadn't. I remember you had shared that with me.
Oh no, yeah, back. Oh no,
that's what I'm saying. Way back that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you. Right. Today, that's a totally different.
Right.
Piece.
I made some money on it, and
you cashed out.
And I kind of cashed out, not knowing what it. I didn't know anything about it.
But that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like for me, I'm holding on dear life. There's nothing emotional. Let it go. Right. Listen, I would die for this thing to go down to 20 cents. Say what? Oh my gosh.
But having the information I have today, if I would have had it back then, oh my God. I mean, it's on a level right now, and something is happening every single day with this.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it's a technology. You know, we may as well just talk about it since we're on it.
Sure.
Listen, we've said it 1,000 times. Make it 1,001.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do some research. If you know absolutely nothing about it, just do a little bit of research. And the first thing I want you to understand about it is try and understand the mathematics behind it.
Absolutely.
Because I think a lot of people miss that. They're so caught up into what is blockchain, what is crypto, what is market cap, and well, you can learn like Coinbase. If you go to Coinbase right now, Coinbase has a tutorial.
Right.
If you just go through those little classes they have, they'll give you some free crypto.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I would start there, but understand and try and get into the mathematics of things. And the reason why I say that, because there's some tokens out there right now you can buy for less than a penny, way less than a penny. And one of the particular tokens, I'm not going to put it out there right now because you know what? Listen, take the workshop, but there's a particular token out there right now you can get for way less than a penny, and they're about to do a partnership with one of the biggest cryptos out there. So knowing that, if you were to spend just a few $100s, you'll have like over 100,000 or over $200,000 in shares possibly with that particular token. And when that partnership goes down, you can best believe $1 is somewhere around the corner. So if you do the math, if you got 200,000 shares and this token goes to $1 and you got it for 0.00025 or less than that, you just had to come up.
I know that's right.
You just had to come up. And that's with one particular token. So don't listen. I was saying this to some folks yesterday, man, because, people are still, asking me about it. A lot of folks want to learn about it now, which is cool. It's not too late. It's not too late. But a lot of these tokens, you're going to spend more money on them now, but they're still cheap. They're still cheap. XRP, where's XRP right now? $2.
Like $2.10. It was like $2.10 last time I checked. Let me go and check that for you right now as we speak.
And, rumor has it that XRP is going to $10,000. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's not.
Even if it goes to 1,600, I've heard everything from 1,600 to 56,000.
Yeah.
Right. Either way, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's $2.18 right now.
Yeah, so it's gone up 8 cents.
So yeah, if it goes to $10,000, if it goes to $500, if it goes to $50, just do the math.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you know basic mathematics, just do the math.
And here's the thing too. Let's say hypothetically, you're like, hey, look, $2 is too deep for me to be able to pull enough of a bag that I feel good about it. There are still projects that are out there that are in the pennies that have not yet launched because the ISO 22 blockchain has not been released completely into full functionality, right? Why is that important? Well, that becomes important because that's the motherboard, that's the brain that is going to be communicating between all of the financial systems and the networks and the e-commerce and all these things that are going to be happening. So there's money to be made for sure.
Yeah.
And where you want to land is, what's your comfort zone. But again, I'm going to place out there, we are not financial advisors and you need to do your research. Please do not come back in the game and say, Melon Goose said, no, don't
always
do that.
Do your own fact checking.
Do your fact checking and your own research.
Do your own research. I'm going to go back. I've told this story before where in real estate, I wasn't a broker yet. I was studying for my broker's license. I was working for this company called Burton Associates Real Estate. Shout out to Greg Burton. My guy, man, one of the smartest dudes still in the business, man. I learned a lot from him. But while working under his office back then, right? This is when the mortgage scandal was going on with all the banks where they were just giving away mortgages. So I had this one client who's very popular even today. I won't even mention his name. But he bought up so much of Dorchester Roxbury and Mattapan, even today. And I just remember one of the stories, well, not even a story, but what he said to me, like, yo, you buying up some of this stuff? And during the time, I was kind of new in the game.
Sure.
So I really wasn't. And but one of the things he said, and I can't remember verbatim how he said it, but basically it was, you know, the best time to buy is when the market is bad.
Yeah.
You know, and I heard that from a few people, but I heard it from him.
Warren Buffett talks about that all the time.
And the market was bad in real estate. Everything was super low. In the properties that I was selling him, and even back then, I was killing it. I killed it because just with him alone and a few other investors, they bought everything I showed them. And some of the stuff I showed them were like the worst. They were like ugly ducklings of properties. Like, why are you buying this? Why are you buying that? But it's not how it looks when you buy it. It's how it looks after you get done rehabbing that baby. Mm-hmm. So he bought so many properties. It got to the point where I was coming in the office with a check almost every day or every other day. And, you know, Greg was like, yo, you on fire, man. What's going on? It's like, hey, man, I just got some good clients. I was killing it back then.
Right.
You know, I was really killing it. But again, the thing that I learned was the best time to invest is when the market is bad, because everything is low in terms of price, no matter it being real estate, whether it's stocks, or even today, you know, the blockchain technology with cryptocurrency.
No,
and the market is bad right now. Overall.
Overall. It's interesting. I was having this conversation with someone because the question is whether or not, I've had other people say this too, about whether they should purchase property now or wait for there to be kind of an 08 scenario that's going to play out. I don't think 08 is going to really be recreated, because 08 was that like perfect storm where you had people that had been put into mortgages that were upside down from day one. Mm-hmm. They weren't really capable, as once the build padding that was in the mortgage for the first year gets removed and the interest rate ran up. And so now they had a mortgage that maybe jumped $800, right? And so they were already stretched with the original price, barely making it. And then now adding the 800 really put people in really bad positions because they just weren't making it, right? Mm-hmm. So you realize that as we're continuing to live this life, the conglomerate of the machine is just consuming more and more. And pretty soon, I think, you know, not maybe in our lifetime, maybe not even in our children's lifetime, but maybe our grandchildren's lifetime, the machine itself is going to probably be the owner of a lot of it.
Right. Now, the real estate market is, especially in Boston, here in Massachusetts, the market it's not, I mean, it's not low like it was back in 08 and 09. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
I kind of doubt that it'll get that way. Now, if you go in the South, there are places where the market is already crashed, you know, or it's crashing.
Sure.
But here in Boston, you know, things are still high, even though the market's down a little bit, it's still high, you know. So, you know, just, you know, get yourself a good agent or broker if you're interested in buying something or getting in the game, and just figure out what's going to work for you.
Yeah.
You know, 3 families now in Boston are still at $1 million. You're still paying millions for a 3-family nowadays. I remember when I started, man, 3 families might have been 500. I thought 500,000 was high.
Yeah.
You know,
it's crazy. You know, I think about when houses that are now going for easily 700,000 used to be like $130,000 for that house.
Yeah.
And, you know, the part of this that's heartbreaking is when we think about.
If I can just say this real quick.
Yeah, sure.
The first house I bought, you know how much, you know, it was paid for?
How much?
$79,000.
That's wild business.
$79,000.
You can't even get a condo for that price.
It was a foreclosure. I'll say that. Great house too, man. Great house, man. Me and my boys, we went to work in that baby, man. Yes. Great house. Yep.
Well, again, I think about these things, and it is absolutely heartbreaking. It really, really is heartbreaking, for sure. It really, really is.
Yep. So, did we miss anything? Oh, Diddy. What about Diddy? What's going on with Diddy? What's the latest on Diddy?
Diddy news. Well, let's see.
First of all, do you think he's going to jail? Do you think he's going to get off? What are your thoughts on Diddy?
I think they're going to make an example out of him, but I really wonder if the example is made out of him, is he going to survive it? Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm just saying, it just seems like there's a reach happening in the prison system that is not protecting people. That's just something I'm seeing. I don't know. What do you think?
I think they only need 2 charges to stick, and I think those 2 charges have been heard. I think he's going to jail.
Do you think it's going to be long? Because I mean, even Diddy's charges are a bit different than R. Kelly's, right? Because Diddy's getting into sex trafficking across borders and states and lines, and all this other stuff is going on, where that wasn't necessarily the narrative that was with R. Kelly.
The crazy thing about Diddy,
and we're on day 24 of testimony right now, just so we're aware of how this is long.
Bill Cosby, even Young Thug, it just seems like when you step out of line, there is a line. Okay, there is a line. You got to stay in between.
The powers that be.
Yep. And as soon as you step out of line, even with Michael Jackson, back then they accused Mike of, messing with the kids and all of that stuff. And with all the information we have now, most people are like, oh, so he wasn't messing with the kids. Now, all
that's a really great point. The narrative spin was that he was a pedophile, right, and he was someone who was a predator.
Right.
And it's interesting because most of the children, even in adulthood, came out and said, nah, that never happened. He was never that way. I think he was eccentric. Absolutely.
And the people that were close to him, they just came out, oh, never. And with Michael, he definitely, like you said, he was different. Michael was he was a child himself.
But that's what I'm saying. I think he was super eccentric, but I don't think he was a predator. I think that he, from some of the stories I've heard, some of the baddest women in the world, they said.
Oh, no doubt.
He'd walk into a room and basically
he was Michael Jackson.
He tongue her down, and like it'd be the baddest female in the room, and these dudes are like, "Yo, Mike, how did you? Don't worry about it." You know what I mean? Like
he was Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
he was Michael Jackson. I mean, come on. But again, I just think that there's that line. You might have been the greatest entertainer of the world or the baddest executive or artist.
Oh, wait.
No matter what your position is, if you go outside that line, they already have a plan on how to put you in your place. I feel that's the music industry. That's Hollywood.
Wait, did you see this?
What's that?
That a juror out of the Diddy case actually was dismissed.
I did hear that this morning.
Yeah, and he's been replaced by an alternate. They're saying that it was a 41-year-old black man who lived in the Bronx, but he was. There was some debate on if he actually lived where he claimed to live, or did he live in New Jersey?
Right.
Interesting. Dun dun dun. And he was replaced, and that black male who was removed. Then was replaced by a 57-year-old white man from Westchester.
Oh, that's not good for Diddy.
Mm-mm.
That's not good for Diddy.
What's going on?
It's not good for Diddy.
Wow. Yeah. Wait a minute. So can we just for a second talk about like how thirsty you have to be to claim to live in a particular borough or district when in fact you don't? And then you got to figure out like how the due diligence was done to find out that this person actually does not live at the address that they said they lived at.
Right. Would you have want to be a juror on that?
No.
Same here. I won't.
I wouldn't want to be a juror on any high profile case. In fact, if I'm being totally transparent, I've never dodged jury duty in all of my life.
Oh, I've done a great job dodging it.
Yeah, no, I've never dodged it, right? I'll tell
you two quick stories.
I always report. I always go, I sign up, I do what I'm supposed to. Somehow I got off of the standard district and got shoved up to Superior, where all the really heavy duty cases go. I luckily have never been selected or asked, but I do my civic duty and I show up. But yeah, no, I wouldn't want to. I don't want the responsibility. It's not interested.
Yeah. So I'll tell you 2 quick stories. One, I was had jury duty in Roxbury.
Okay.
And when you fill out that questionnaire, I would put everything and anything on it that the judge would see, and he would exclude me.
You're diabolical. Why are you doing this, Goose?
So the judge called me out on it in front of everybody, and he said, "Oh, you just don't want to be here today. Well, lucky you, man. Everybody's going home." But he called me out before he dismissed everybody.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you put on? Wait, now I'm nosy. What did you put on the paperwork?
I don't remember exactly what it was, but I just made sure it was opposite of what they wanted.
Wait. Do you think that all black men are criminals? I sure do.
Right, exactly.
Do you think
something like that?
Do you think all white men are criminals? I sure don't.
It was the opposite of any answer they might have been looking for. That's how I got out of jury duty. And I'll tell you another story.
So it's worked every time until that moment.
Yeah, every time it has worked. And he called me out on it in Roxbury.
Okay. Shout out to Roxbury Courts.
So another story I'll tell you. This was downtown. This was a couple of years ago. This wasn't that long ago.
So you're at Superior now.
Yep.
They moved you up.
So I got selected.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was, what's that gang?
MS-13?
Yeah, I think it was MS-13. Yeah. East Boston. The guy stabbed somebody or something like that. I forget what the story was. And so, they're asking me all these questions. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Sure, no problem. I didn't try to get out of this one. I didn't think it would, they would select me. So they actually brought me in the chamber with the guy who was going on trial. Oh! And I'm saying to myself, hold up.
Why are you doing this to me?
And they're asking me all these questions in front of this dude.
Oh, and he's probably taking dubious notes. Got himself a beard.
Like, is this how this works?
Wait, look, got himself a beard. And he's looking
I don't think I had the beard then, but
I bet you would have grown it out real fast.
Listen, let me tell you, I'm saying to myself, yo, don't be putting me on this. Like, yo, what y'all doing? And I think he ended up pleading anyway, so it never went to trial. But that was weird. That was weird for me.
That's scary.
That was weird for me. They had me in there with the dude asking me all the questions, and I'm like, yo.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to be a part of that conversation. That's a little scary.
Right.
That is absolutely a little scary.
Right.
Well,
I think we're going to wrap it up.
I think so, because there's not much happening today. We want to let everybody know, too, we're not going to be on Thursday as it's Juneteenth, and there are going to be a lot of celebrations happening here in the city. And myself, I'll be partaking in a parade in Roxbury, which I'm super excited for. So what are you doing, Goose? Are you doing anything?
I got a couple of events I'm doing this weekend, and actually been spending a lot lately. Normally I would just pick and choose, but for some reason I said, you know what, all right, I'll do it. And usually I have my guys set up, you know what I mean? So I'm just coming in with the controller, boom, boom, boom. But I got an event on Saturday and Sunday. Okay. And should be a good weekend.
What are you doing Sunday?
Sunday,
private event, or?
Yeah, they're both private events. Sunday's event is in Cambridge. Actually, they're both in Cambridge.
Okay.
And Juneteenth. Y'all have a safe and great, wonderful celebratory weekend.
I love it. I love it.
All right, we out of here, y'all.
Appreciate
Thanks for tuning in. We'll do it again tomorrow.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.